Welcome to the Inspire Wealth podcast. Thank you for being on.
I'm psyched to be on. Hopefully we can impart some nuggets in the process here.
Love it. Yeah, absolutely. So, Chris, let's start off with a little bit about your background. Tell us a little bit about your journey and where things stand for you today.
Yeah, so I won't put the audience to sleep, Mallory, with 33 years, but I'll give you kind of the high point, and then you can go back and peel it back. So 90s, I started in the biz. We built homes. We called it spot building, like we'd find single lots and just go build homes there. But the interesting thing, I don't think you and I have talked about this. I was in my 20s then, and I was naive enough to go to the landowner and go, hey, we're going to build a house here and you'll get paid at the very end. And then I went to all the subs and said, hey, we're going to build a house here and you'll get paid at the end. And they all did it, maybe because the 90s was a little wonky for a market, but it worked. And it was creative real estate without knowing it, right? And then I built a brokerage, sold it to Coldwell Banker in 2000. And that led from 2000 to the crash was when I did all my own properties and started coaching people in US and Canada. But when I say I did all my own properties, that also put me in all this real estate that was conventionally bought with me signing personally on all the loans. And so when the crash happened, that was a rude awakening, as you know the story. But for the listeners, that was 4 years of hell because I just had to dig myself out of it without filing. I literally had to dig myself out. So I did that. And then in 13, started going back into laser focused creative real estate only because I had no money. My credit was in the toilet. Like there was no choice. So creative being, as you know, sub to owner financing and lease purchase. And then the organic piece was people started asking us for help, like in the coaching side. Hey, I want to learn what you're doing. I hear about you in the area. And the first student was a war college student in Newport because there's a war college there for the Navy. And I taught him, and then the rest started parlaying. We can talk about it, but it got really interesting because people started just, again, organically asking us for help.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that most people just can't even wrap their head around what creative financing is without actually like seeing other people do it. So I think
Yeah.
it's great that you were kind of one of those pioneers in the early days before, maybe it got more traction currently. So I guess how about you tell our listeners about some maybe misconceptions that people might have about creative financing? Because I think in today's society, we're really taught, you go to a bank, you sign a loan, you maybe go through a realtor, that's the process in which you purchase real
Right.
estate. But explain to us maybe how they can think outside of that traditional box.
Yeah, well, here's the funny thing. I was at this for the first 18 years doing it conventionally, knowing on the peripheral, okay, I get that that stuff existed, like it's been around since 1600s, but I didn't attack it. I didn't know enough about it. Yeah, the conventional wisdom is completely opposite of what we do. Creative to them, to some people would be, okay, I'm going to go borrow some money from someone I know, and then that's kind of going to bring to the deal. You're still going to sign personally on a loan. So when you can buy owner financing with the owner being your bank, or as you've done so masterfully, done some subject to existing loans where the loan stays in the seller's name, or when you're brand new, so you're brand new and you have no money, you tie up a property with a lease purchase for $10. I mean, literally $10 to create what we call the 3 paydays is pretty strong. So that I always say when you're new, because as you know, I don't want to say graduate, but as you get more advanced, you sort of want to own the property. But I love the ease of a lease purchase. And I'll tell you what misperception is. And I've been hearing this recently, and I don't know if you have, and that is people think it's complicated. Like they'll talk to us or someone on our strategy team at Smart Real Estate Coach and say, yeah, I was going to look into that, but I thought I had to like learn how to do wholesaling first and then learn how to fix it. Like I had to do all this first. And you don't have to. You absolutely do not have to, as you know.
Yeah, I think a lot of people get stuck in this analysis paralysis phase where, they feel like they just have to keep learning and learning and learning before actually doing it. And, I think that's one of the lessons that I try to teach is that, look, you're kind of learning as you go and you're going to make mistakes and you're going to figure it out. But if you don't actually start doing it, all of the things that you've just learned aren't going to be for, anything.
But not.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brian Tracy was on my show. Now I'm dating myself because he's like in his 80s, but he was on my show during COVID. And he said the most important thing you guys have going is the interactive approach, like you just alluded to. Like you're doing it in the trenches. You can go through our course, you can go through the videos, you can go through hundreds of videos on YouTube, but until you do the deal and it's you and it's the nerves and everything else, it's not the same. And so we try to interact with the students, as you know. in the trenches, so to speak, doing deals, because that's how you learn on the fly.
No, absolutely. Um, so Chris, why don't you talk to us about I'm gonna start on one side. Tell us about the most challenging deal you've had to date that you can think of, and how you've navigated that to help your students and those in the community get past the finish line.
Okay, so I'm going to mention one that you're somewhat aware of because I announced it recently, but I want to make this statement to everybody first. Like the most challenging deal each year is a different plateau than the following year. I don't know if I'm clear. Like a challenging deal when I was 30, and I thought, oh my gosh, this is going to be a crusher. That's nothing now, right? In hindsight. So they get the challenges get bigger to get the attention, right? Am I making sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So the most recent one was it's appropriate to creative because it was one of our students that dropped the ball in a lot of ways because they weren't coming to us and getting advice. I'll give you some examples. They dropped the ball by putting a tenant in $1 million home, not a tenant buyer that deserved to be in there because they had a short runway that they had to fix to get mortgage ready. When you do that in creative space, you are asking for a headache, a big one. You're asking for someone that's going to probably not pay, and they have this pipe dream to own a home someday. But that's not who we deal with. We deal with buyers, as you know. So that was mistake number one. Number two, they stopped paying the payment to the on the underlying debt, which I don't care what loan you're in, that's foreclosure material. Okay, so everyone was going to get hurt in that deal, and then behind the green curtain, there was about 300 something grand in the deal that they were going to walk away from. So why is it difficult? It was difficult because of the headaches, but it was also difficult because there were trusts involved. There was an eviction involved. There was a squatter because they put their own, all these things kind of parlayed up. But I tell you how I look at it now, Mallory, and I think you know this. When there's headaches like that, as long as there's upside in it, when there's headaches like that, I know most people are going to run when there's headaches in any deal. So I don't want to say I look for it, but when I hear it, I go, good, I'm going to stick with this because most won't. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if there are challenges that people face, the easiest way for them is just to kind of get out, and they don't want to
Yeah.
see kind of what it might look like once they cross the finish line. They're very short-minded versus long-term minded when it comes to, handling some of these situations. So, how did that end up, resolving?
Yeah, we end up took about 6 or 7 months with the right attorney to get the squatter out, professional squatter, I might add. There's a difference. They know what they were doing. And then the end result was like a $329,000 payday. Now we were probably out of pocket, I don't know, 50 or 60 grand plus all the headaches, right? And dealing with vendors and everything else. But yeah, it was a big payday. But that's what comes with the headaches sometimes, right? If you do them right.
Yeah,
And there's another scenario that, like you said, some people just walk away. This is the second time in probably 6 months I've gotten a deal. One was ours, one was someone in the community, where there's a whole stack of liens on there, but the statute of limitation was such that they were going to expire over time. And just knowing that and knowing what that process is, because the seller was like, forget it, all these liens here, I'm out of here. And they just walked away. Both times the sellers walked away.
wow. Yeah, they're leaving a lot of
Crazy.
money on the table that, people like
Yeah.
us can find and pick up and make what we want.
Yep. If you get the time and the experience. Yep.
Absolutely. So how do you kind of keep up to date with maybe some changing policies or things that are changing in the creative world? Like what type of recommendations might you have to some of our younger listeners to help them kind of stay up to date?
Okay, so this is a shameless plug for you because I love that you have a podcast now because that's how I stay up to date. Think about it. I get to interview, I don't know what show we're on now, probably 450 people now. And I ask questions that I care about, like you're doing with me now. Like, I really want to know. Like, I had Eddie Speed on. He buys notes. You probably know of Eddie. He drops statistic on me after statistic after statistic and brought me up to date with a lot of cool things. So then I run with that and I go ahead and go to the next show and the next show. So the answer is become a sort of a avid listener of the podcasts that are in the space you want to be in, yours, ours, and others that are related, because those are usually top of mind live topics that are fun, that are interesting, that aren't staged.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I tell my students, I say, if you're walking from class to class, pop your earbuds in and listen to a podcast versus,
Yeah.
you're listening to music or something like that. At least you're educating yourself in that time. I know every time I'm driving to visit my family, I'm always listening to something. I
Yeah.
want to utilize my time as best as I can.
Here's the other thing for the younger group then too, that you said that, and that is this is the third person now that reached out out of the blue to us and said, hey, I want to be an intern. It's not a college program. It's not a high school program. I just want to be with you guys and learn. We said, sure. All three of them crushed it with their learning curve and doing live phone calls. They're probably going to go out and make a fortune. And it's not necessarily going to be with us. It's going to be on their own. So I would say find someone like that or like us or like you in your marketplace and latch on to them, because there is zero reason for you to recreate the wheel. This has been around, owner financing 1600s before banking. Okay, it kind of has a track record. Go find someone that's doing what you want to do in that niche and follow them for 3 or 4 years. I mean, it sounds simple, but that's the deal.
Absolutely. I mean, I have an internship program, so I'm doing exactly that,
Even better. Yeah.
letting students actually, get in the trenches and try this out
The
without feeling
best.
like they're by themselves and they're on their own. They have my support and they have my network that I can tap into for them. And no, I think that's great.
It's perfect path.
So let's see. What do you recommend now beyond podcasts? Are you reading any good books that you recommend, or do you have any resources that you like to tap in that maybe our listeners might find useful?
Again, it's gonna be a timing thing for what stage I'm in the business. So outside of podcasts, I'm reading books more on the entrepreneur versus specific real estate now. But if I were them, I would use the free university on YouTube for sure. I'm not so naive to think we're the only resource, right? So use the resources on YouTube to tap into each thing, but just watch out for the shiny object syndrome, because you can get on there and you can go down the wholesale route, then you can go down the owner financing route, then you can go down the sub two, and you get totally distracted. That's why I like Mallory, not to sound like a broken record, but I like especially the younger people to say, who's the group or person, like say it's you, right? Okay, I'm gonna follow Mallory, I'm gonna get with her dream team, I'm gonna stay in that circle for 2 or 3 years. They'll lead you to the books, the training, the online, they'll lead you to all that. Like your network will, my network will. So that's a better answer, I think, than telling you what I would go ahead and read, because mine might be different at
Uh,
this stage.
yeah, totally. Um, okay, let's change gears here and let me ask you. Let's go into your coaching program. So you are a coach. I'm gonna call you a coach. You're a coach that advises people, that helps people basically create their dream um, lifestyle, right? Because they're not stuck at a W-2. They're not stuck behind a desk constantly. So, what's a common piece of advice that you find yourself giving to those that you're coaching or those that are looking to maybe enter this space?
Okay, it's hard to say one, but I'll tell you one that needs to be said a lot, and that is to manage their expectations. Unfortunately, not fortunately, there are a lot of great marketers in real estate, right? In the education, as any field, but in the education field for us. And so if you're young and you're looking online and social media, which is where you live, you're getting flooded with get rich quick tomorrow. You are. And the Lamborghini and the plane that they rented and all this fun stuff. But the fact is that gets you into the mix thinking that you have to do that or you failed, or you should do that or you failed. And that's not the case. When you learn real estate and you learn the skill set properly, and then you marry that with the dream team that someone like you or I can bring them, like the mindset piece and all that, that's the right path. Managing your expectation is by far the biggest challenge. And if everybody can do that and know that it's going to be a nice 2 or 3 or 4 year journey, but that'll set them up for life, that's the best advice I could give without going, micro level with skill sets.
Yeah. I hear a lot of people tell me that it's time management, that they just can't get over that hurdle of balancing, different obligations, different requirements. Obviously, a lot of people have a job until they can
Yeah.
get further into their real estate investing or investing in whatever asset class. So, how tell me at least like how do you manage your time and what do you find to be the most effective strategy to getting everything that you get done in a day, whereas most people might look at you and say, "How do you have 24 hours where I feel like you have 48? I didn't get half the things
Yeah.
that you did."
A couple things. I won't try to do it in priority order, and then I can give some advice to them if you remind me, because I'll go off track. So a couple things. One is I used to have an inordinate amount of to-dos, right, on paper, and then it went to the computer. The fact is, there's still to-do list. So instead, now every weekend, Saturday or Sunday, I'll take the what I call the biggest needle movers for the week. The biggest things. If I only had, my coach always says, if you only had one lever you could pull, Chris, he'll start with three, and then he'll make me go to one. As the owner of your company, what is it? I'm only gonna let you do one all week. What is it? So on the weekends, I'll pick those one, two, or three levers. So it's only one per day max. And then those go into my calendar, not a to-do list. Because I used to have the calendar, and then the to-do list never got looked at because the calendar's busy. And then you get to the to-do list, and it's just a repeat every day. So everything that has to be done is in the calendar. I think that's a really cool sort of hack for people to start doing. I didn't do it for years, and it's been one of the most helpful things. Second thing is an accountability partner. So if you're going to set up a goal, especially in real estate, and say, and especially if you're leaving your job, that's not easy because you got to balance, like you just said. Okay, so if you have that and you have a predictable plan to run on, then you need an accountability partner to hold you accountable to that. And so I know it's not specific time management, but it is, because when you report each day, if you didn't do the plan you said you were going to do to get off your job or whatever it is, you know you're off track right away if you have an accountability partner. Now that's easier said than done, right? Mallory, you know that. Like yeah, I'll be held accountable. But when it comes brass tacks comes, hits, you gotta be open to that, because that can be an ego slap, right? When people say, whoa, you're not doing what you said. So those are just two small things. I think the predictability of a plan is important. So you mentioned, okay, I got to balance a job and then make the transition. Okay. So from a time management standpoint, get with someone that already did that. Like in our community, Rick comes to mind. Go sit with someone like a Rick who did that transition, or a Mike or a Rusty, and say, what do you suggest? How long will it take me? What are the steps I have to take? And then those go into your calendar. They go into the 2-year plan, and they hold you accountable. So this is all time management / predictability and planning. I hope that helped. I kind of went higher level.
No, definitely. I mean, I always relate it to people who want to lose weight or they want to start going to the gym. It's kind of the same thing. You have to have that motivation to, want to get it done. And if you have an accountability partner and they're showing up and they're going to be questioning why you're not there, it's the same kind of deal. So yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Okay, so I want to ask you questions that maybe aren't about real estate. So this was a question that came up, some of my students talking about it, and they're taking real estate law. That's one of the classes that they're taking. And the question comes up as to how what is your responsibility of disclosing different things about a property? And one of those things that came up was, what is the definition of a haunted house? And if you believe a house is haunted, do you have some responsibility for disclosing that when you go to try to sell the house? I'm interested to
I'd
hear your
probably,
take on it.
yeah, I'd probably be tough to convince what haunted means, first of all. But if there was some evidence that said it was, would I say, yeah, I'd probably have fun with it and say, hey, this is what I'm told, and let them make their own conclusion if you tell me that. But honestly, you'd be hard, just me, you'd be hard pressed to say to me, here's why it's haunted and here's it. That'd be a tough one.
All right, so Chris is not a haunted house guy, noted.
No, but I would disclose it if you told me there was facts.
Okay, so here's another twist to it. So this is where we were debating too. If somebody died in the house,
Yeah.
what does that mean as far as disclosure? And I guess it would also depend on what type of death it was. So there's a property that was across the street from me growing up, and the guy who was living there OD'd, and obviously they found, him. And now people have subsequently lived there. Now all of us neighbors know that that happened. I'm not sure if they know, but I'm not sure where, is there a responsibility that people should disclose that?
That's a good one. I don't know, I don't legally, but I will tell you that if I guess it would depend how I bought it. I'm just trying to think out loud with you. Because if I bought it and there was a big stigma and everybody knew about it, I would feel a little bit more obligated. Whereas if somebody pushed in the rug and I found out through my own due diligence, then I'd feel like, okay, well, that's someone's due diligence to take care of that. Unless someone said to me who lived here and what was the scenario, then you don't lie, right?
Sure.
That'd be my take on it. I'm just kind of thinking on the fly with you, but that'd be my take on it.
Yeah.
Why? What did the class come up with? I'm curious. What was the? I should have asked you in the last one, but let's do this one.
So basically, if somebody just died of natural causes, there's no reason to have to disclose that. But if there was some sort of a criminal case, so if there was a homicide or a murder, then that would be something that would have to be disclosed. But then the question is how long ago that
Yeah,
happened? Do you still have to continue disclosing it? And so and I think it varies based on the jurisdiction that you're in as far as, the property location. Here in Pennsylvania, I would believe that you're not under an obligation to fully disclose, but if you are asked, obviously you have to,
that's kind of where I went. Yeah,
yeah.
just that's just moral and ethical. But if you go to the extreme of what you said, like a homicide or something crazy, I'd probably go, hey, you're probably gonna find something in the paper. Here's what because that's the reality. They're gonna find it if they want to. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. All right, so we're gonna get off of murders and haunted
I
houses.
can tell you that I've never been asked that, so that's a good one.
Okay.
Meaning for a podcast host, that's a good question.
Okay, so I want to know, Chris, how has your life changed since you introduced this way of doing real estate, and what opportunities have you been presented that you may not have had presented had you continued with your traditional real estate career path?
Yeah, this is a good one. What's changed? I Quality of lifestyle for sure. So let me start with the basics. Meaning, for years of 33 out of 33, the first 18 was okay, do a deal, get paid. Now, albeit very well, like I don't have any complaints about my lifestyle. I think everything happens for a reason. But I do remember every January going, man, I gotta like when I was a broker, for example, I gotta sell 100 homes this year. Like it was a little depressing. Like January comes, you go, I gotta do 10 a month. That's a lot of deals. So that piece was there. And now we have as you know, the 3 paydays, which kind of scatters your money over time and schedules it. So it's a lot different lifestyle because you really couldn't get off the treadmill with that unless you just cranked a lot of deals and then took some time off. But there was never that, hey, it's going to keep going with or without me. And now we can. So that's a big piece. I'd say opportunity wise, the deals aren't even remotely the same. I gave an extreme example of that 300 grand one, but those aren't conventional deals. They're not available as a broker. They're not available as a builder. This is not. Once in a while, and actually you might run into one. They are in the creative world because you're solving problems and you usually get paid by the size of the problem you're solving, right? Or you're helping someone accomplish a goal like they don't have a problem, but they're trying to accomplish a goal the market can't bring them. We get paid well to do that because others can't do it. It's more of a specialty. So I think those are the major changes for opportunity and how it's changed lifestyle, mine and others.
Yeah, for sure. Have you been to any destinations as far as travel that you never thought you would have been able to go to?
Yeah, two. Grand Cayman, which was always a goal. That's really cool. If you haven't been there, you should go there. And then secondly, we had a 30-year goal to build up here where I'm sitting right now talking to you, and that came to fruition just a few years ago through all the endeavors that we've been in. And that, I mean, it was literally a 30-year goal, and that's up in Vermont where we built.
Love it.
Now it's not a glamorous destination; it's what my destination was going to be.
No, absolutely. Everybody has their own goals. Is there a maybe a future trip that you're hoping to take and visit a new location?
Yeah, Kim wants to go back to Italy. We just built this, so this will keep us busy for a while. But she wants to go back to Italy. We went once and we stayed in on Lido, tiny little island outside of Venice, and that was during 9/11. So literally, we landed, and then 2 days later was 9/11. So it was a little wonky. We were the second flight back to Boston, so we got this thing going. That'd be cool to go like the Amalfi Coast or somewhere really neat in Italy and enjoy it.
Yeah. Have you ever been on a cruise before?
No, I have. Now I'm probably gonna step on toes here, but I have zero desire to be part of a herd of sheep going and doing everything together. It's just not gonna happen. We had it booked. We had one booked forever. We've been married 38 years. We had one booked, and Nick's accident happened, and we had to cancel it. And I never looked back, and I'm like, I'm good. I don't want to do that. So that won't happen.
Okay, well, I'll put a plug in for my honeymoon. We did a yacht cruise. And so it was a sailing yacht, and there were 100 people maybe on it. And I mean, it didn't feel like you were in a herd by any means.
Okay,
Now,
so that's different,
yeah,
right? That's not the cruise
yeah.
boat that's in my mind, right?
It's not, yeah,
I
it's
like
not the huge ships where you have
yeah.
thousands of people. So I mean, I could see you liking that. I could see you liking it.
Or a concoction of that, like a
Yeah,
private, small, yeah, small.
definitely. So would you say you're a lake guy or an ocean guy? Can you hear me, Chris? So Chris, I was asking, would you consider yourself a lake guy or an ocean guy?
Oh, definitely ocean. No lake, no lake. You can tell I'm a little opinionated on this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Um, Let me ask you this kind of a question. This is going to be a unique one. If you could have the opportunity to master a skill overnight, what skill would you want to master?
I get this one. Uh, Piano.
Hmm. Okay. Any particular reason why?
There's a story. There's a little bit of a story. Yeah. My grandfather was a musician. When Kim and I built a home in Massachusetts, we bought this baby grand and I took lessons, and then it was horrible. And they used to leave the house. And then the guy actually passed away. And I'm like, okay, that's a sign. So I was horrific. And if I could learn it though, I'd like to try it again, but it wasn't good. I got as far as Jingle Bells and it was painful for the family.
Oh boy. That's funny. Um, I like that answer. That wasn't what I was expecting at all. So it definitely threw me. Okay, I have one more question. Have you ever had someone do just a small act of kindness or random act that you've never forgotten and it somehow influenced the way you now treat others or you look at life?
That's good. I can think of two. I'm going to combine two if it's okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Um, because one was a little different. One was when I was a lot young. I think it was in late high school, playing hockey. There was a lot of detrimental coaches, right? Any kid sports, but there was a gentleman who was a college coach who just was always encouraging me, and it definitely boosted confidence and let me propel through what I ended up doing in high school and then into college. So I think of him to this day. Like I feel like I should reach out to him. That's how influential he was. College coach in Massachusetts, Assumption College. And then I had the second one. Oh, I got it. There was a so when I was young, I used to go to my father and say, "Hey, introduce me to these people that own businesses that you know, and I want to go meet them." And I'll just ask them a series of questions. There's this one gentleman owned an insurance company that every year after I met him the first time, he'd say, "Come back next year, come back next year." I just bring my journal and ask him questions. You know, what would you do differently? All these questions. And to this day, he's still friends with my dad. I haven't seen him in years, but he definitely influenced me. I mean, I probably could fill a book on what he taught. Pretty cool.
That's cool. So would you have considered yourself an entrepreneur even like from a young age, just having that natural desire to want to be a business owner and want to figure out creative ways of making money?
I don't, yeah, I guess creative would be the word. I used to pull, okay, so I used to go to my closet, take all the junk out. I'm talking elementary school, stuff that I was going to throw away, put it in a wagon, go up to the corner. There was like a 3-corner street, and I just put a sign for sale, and I would just sell shit out of my wagon. And I don't know what I made, $5 or whatever, but yeah. And then I used to go buy packs of gum. And when Kim and I met in middle school, so I'd buy a pack of gum. She still reminds me, and whatever it cost, 30, 40 cents. And then I'd sell it by the piece, like extra, like 25 cents or whatever. So yeah, I did that stuff. I used to have fun doing that.
That's awesome. No, I love that because I used to do things like that too as a kid, and I recently realized that I've always wanted to be an entrepreneur because I've been an entrepreneur since I was, 5 or 6 when I have a
Yeah.
lemonade stand outside or, you know,
Yeah, exactly.
I was there. This is a funny story, not to get sidetracked it, but where I grew up, there's a 4th of July festival. And so my backyard basically was a half a block away from this festival. and they had a parking lot that they would charge cars to park in. And so when the parking lot was getting full, I just decided that we could use my yard and my driveway to have people
Perfect.
park. And I'll charge a dollar less than what they're being charged over here so that I know that
I
people are
love
going
it.
to want. And I just remember my dad coming out. He was not happy that his lawn
Horrified.
was covered with cars.
I never did that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, so that was one of my early
I
experiences.
love it.
Okay, so Chris, why don't we end here by you telling our audience what's happening in your world? What are some upcoming events that you want people to do, and then how they can reach out to you to maybe learn more about the coaching that you offer?
Yeah, because it's you, Mallory, and we have a connection with the real estate. I have a few things. One is I'll do a free call with anyone that wants to talk to me. We usually send them to the team, right? Okay, go have an advisory call. But I'm saying I'll get on the horn. I'll get on and I'll talk to them. Just go to smartrealestatecoach.com/Chris free call. Happy to do it. I do it selectively now. As far as events, September is our annual QLS live event, stands for Quantum Leap System, and it's in Boston. I selfishly every year had it in Rhode Island, so everybody could come to me, but they won me over, and it's going to be in Boston. It's going to be easier for everybody else. To get I want to give you a 50% link, and I'm looking at it because I just got it today. So 50% off, would just go to smartrealestatecoach.com/QLS live, and then use the code INSPIRE50, and that'll get it down to 50%, because that's a good place to, like, you and I kind of alluded to, like, hanging out with people and mentor, like we alluded to a lot of that. Okay, well, come hang out with us and see what that's like, and see what happens to your thinking. Like, you'll think bigger, you'll act differently, and that's a game changer. And last but not least, we might as well give everybody the free book, right? Just go to wickedsmartbooks.com/inspire, the number one, numeric number one. And that's not one of those offers, Mallory, as you know, that's like, I get them all the time. Oh, free book. And then you got to pay for $8 for shipping. That's not a free book. So this is free. We're going to ship it to you for free. You'll get a hard copy.
That's awesome. I love that. All right, Chris. Well, thank you again for all of your nuggets and knowledge.
You
And
bet.
let's leave everybody with an inspired day.